Alright then, bro. This is Lipids part 2. Now, if you haven't already, watch the last part and don't be some weird nerd, okay? Just watch the last part so you can get up to speed with all this. In this video, we're going to be covering why the lipids are so freaky, okay? They're pretty freaky fellas, so I'm going to be covering all of that in this part. So, if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe to the video, like all that bollocks. Let's find out why these guys are so freaky. So just a quick silly little recap. These guys are what we call a triglyceride, tri meaning 3, glyceride meaning, well, a glycerol when it's bonded. And this is what it really looks like, okay? So we went from the UFO structure to this really weird, I don't know, it looks like if glucose smoked a ton of illegal substances. You know, it looks crazy, okay? But this is what we call a triglyceride. This is what its structure looks like, and you do have to learn this, okay? So this is one fatty acid here. The second one is here, and the third one is here. And this is your glycerol molecule, okay? They're all bonded together with ester bonds, okay? And this is very important because you need to learn the practical applications to why this little guy here is important, okay? So here I'm showing you this fatty acid. And the cool thing about these guys is they store a lot of energy in their bonds, okay? And these guys are actually a brilliant energy storage molecule, and I'll get to more about why it is in a second. But these guys store a lot of chemical energy in their CH bonds, okay? And they store about twice as much energy as glucose, right? Glucose is just, he's a pussy, right? A baser pussy. And these guys basically just very largely overshadow glucose. And in your body, they're mainly stored as like fats and all that, bollocks, right? If you're a bit pudgy, you'll probably have a lot of lipid storage, a lot of adipose tissue. But these guys, and the cool thing about these that you should know is that these can be used in respiration, okay? You don't actually need glucose for respiration, right? They can be resubstituted. So if glucose isn't necessarily available, right? You know the equation for respiration. You should know this by now. So of course, here we've got our glucose, and it combines with oxygen to go on to form carbon dioxide. It makes water, and it actually releases energy here, okay? And when glucose isn't available, you can't just tag in your boy lipid here, right? He can just be tagged in, kind of like when you're doing the Latina and you tag in your homeboy. That's kind of how it works here, because these lipids store a lot of energy. And if you throw this bad boy, these triglycerides, into water, okay, you'll find that they are actually insoluble. We went through this in the last video, and you do see these as insoluble little droplets, okay? They're kind of like, they just hate water, right? They're biggest ops, right? They're like, it's like street beefs, okay? You don't want to get involved. And when you do put these guys in water, okay, this is what they do, okay? They all kind of just hold hands and, maybe they tickle each other a little bit. Maybe they do something else that they kind of just clump up together and shield themselves away from water. I mean, this beef is real, okay? You don't want to get involved. Trust me, man, there's history. And that's what you see in your cells, because in your cells, they exist as insoluble lipid droplets, okay? This is what they look like, and it's pretty damn romantic. So here I'm showing you a guy, okay? A dude. And this is what his blood looks like, okay? We've got this water potential and it's at equilibrium. So if you don't know anything about this, just look at my water potential video and then you'll be up to speed with everything. So here they're at equilibrium, meaning they're exchanging the same amount of water in as out, okay? And the reason why they're such a good energy storage molecule is because these guys are also insoluble, like your glycogen. Because when you throw these lipids into your cells, these bad boys, they don't affect the water potential. The water potential stays stable. It doesn't change. And because of that, there's no overall osmosis. So you don't get water moving into the cell. You don't get water being sucked out of the cell. It's just a very equal flow of water and everything stays happy, okay? So lipids are pretty cool. Now let me shock your world a bit here. Let me give you a very crazy revelation. So what if I told you that this guy here has a very freaky, horny best friend, okay? And this is what he looks like, okay? He's very, I can't even describe it. All I can say is just don't get involved. But anyways, this is what he looks like. He's trying to copy his style a little bit, but here is what he looks like, okay? And this new added thing is what we call a phosphate. A phosphate is negatively charged ion, okay? And this horny little devil here is what makes the molecule so horny, okay? This right here is the phosphate ion, okay? It's negatively charged, and because of that, it starts to get attracted to different things like water and different polar solvents, okay? So because it's charged, that's what happens. And now it gets even weirder because there's a portion of the molecule that's polar and a portion of the molecule that isn't polar, okay? And now it starts to create this weird kind of divide. It makes it all very strange. So you have a portion of the molecule that's soluble and you have a portion of the molecule that isn't not soluble. It's kind of like an open relationship, right? You know, this part wants to see other people and this part wants to see other people. It's kind of like me and your mama, huh? Anyways. Now, this little molecule here is what we call a phospholipid, okay? It's a bit of a lazy name, you know, but, you know, whatever, right? It's a phospholipid, and they are very, very, very important molecules, and we'll get to why. Now, if I start throwing these bad boys in this little, you know, pit here, you start throwing all these guys together, they don't connect to each other like the triglycerides, okay? The triglycerides, they kind of form this weird kind of circle here over this, I don't know, they're all holding hands. But when you put the phospholipids together, this is what they look like, okay? So the hydrophobic part is what we call it. The non-polar part is the hydrophobic part. And they are attracted to each other, okay? They connect to each other. They shield away from water and other polar solvents that may be outside. Whereas this part, the horny part, right? The hydrophilic part is what we call it. Hydro meaning water, philic meaning loving. And this part here is attracted to the polar stuff, so it is outwards, okay? It's outwards. And this is actually what you find in your cell membranes, and we call it a phospholipid bilayer. This right here. And so, because you have this large section here that's very hydrophobic, right? They hate water, and this part here loves water, okay? The result of this is, of course, your cell membrane is very permeable to certain things, okay? It's semi-permeable, okay? It likes certain things, but it doesn't like other things, okay? And to digress more into that, this part, the hydrophobic part, does not let in hydrophilic stuff, okay? Because, again, hydrophobic, they do not like water. Hydro meaning water, phobic meaning, ugh, I hate this, okay? So, apart from water itself, because it's small enough, hydrophobic stuff does not let hydrophilic stuff in. So polar solvents are not allowed to enter the cell membrane. And you'll learn more about this in a later topic, but to get more into it, just a very general basis, it's very semi-permeable, okay? Apart from water itself, because it's so tiny, other polar solvents are not allowed to enter the cell because of this massive kind of wall of hydrophobic stuff here. These tails here, so hydrophobic, they're like, no, we do not let our ops enter here. They're our enemies, okay? We don't let them in. So that's why these guys are so good as a cell membrane. That's why they're so suited for that function. They are qualified for these guys, right? So just understand that these phospholipids, they just bundle together and form a layer around the cell, and they just act as a barrier, okay? That's pretty much all you need to really know. Now, let's move on already. Fuck this. All right, let's do the test for these guys now, okay? So let's say you were given a solution by some random, mysterious, strange individual, AQA, and let's say they were like, yo, bro, are there any lipids in this solution? And you're like, okay, bro, let me see. This is how you test for it, okay? And we call this the emulsion test, okay? So let's say you grab your unknown solution, right? And so first you grab your ethanol, which is, by the way, a cool little fun fact. Ethanol is what is usually used in most alcoholic drinks, okay? Ethanol, right here, this alcohol. So you grab a bunch of ethanol, and please do not drink it, okay? It's just, don't drink it. You grab ethanol, it should smell like a nail polish remover, okay? Ethanol. And you throw it into your unknown solution. And then you shake it around a bit. So once you shake it around a little bit, pause, you add some water to it, okay? And if there is a lipid present, right, if there are lipids in your unknown solution, because the lipids and the water are like sworn enemies, right, they don't mix. And you'll see this milky kind of emulsion that starts to form at the top. And the more lipids there are, the more of this kind of milky emulsion will form at the top, okay? And if there aren't any lipids, then it just should stay the same as before, okay? So that's pretty much the end of the video then. Pretty cool, pretty awesome. Very easy as well, so like don't worry too much about it. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and like, do all that bollocks. And yeah, I'll see you soon, bro.